Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. I have Ekta Vyas on the line, and she is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Keck Medicine of USC. She's also a recently published author in one of our most recent business leaders books, and a return, or I should say a repeat guest on this show. So Ekta, I know that was a long intro, but hey, I just want to say it's so great to see you again.
Thank you, Adam. I'm so happy to be here back with you. You have told me you're going to call me back, so thanks for keeping your word.
So we have a lot to cover today. So of course, I want to talk about the recently released book. You're writing in it. I'm even going to get you to do something. I want you to possibly even maybe read a little bit from it. There's a couple parts in there that I think are really interesting and just powerful. So I'm going to ask you to read a little bit too. And also you had some changes going on in your professional career that are just amazing. So we'll get into all of this, but to get this interview started, we'll kick this off the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So Ekta, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Ekta, what mission matters to you?
So Adam, I remember you asked me this question a couple of months back when I was on your show, right? And that led to the contributing authorship to the book that we are talking about today. You know, I'll say my mission still stays the same. It still is when I talked to you last time, right? And I shared with you the mission that matters to me is sensible, thoughtful, and system-oriented decision-making, which can facilitate a collective journey of all involved towards a better future, right? So missions are something that takes long to achieve, and it's a journey, you know, achieving a mission. So I'm continuing on that journey, although in a different organization now, in a different position now, but I stay true to my mission.
Wonderful. So I don't want to assume that all of our new listeners, caught some of the previous work we've done with each other. So maybe let's go back a bit here. So tell me a little bit more about how you got started in your career.
So I have a career spanning, I think, 28 years now. I've stopped counting, but I think I'm close. About 28 years. And, at hardcore, I'm a management scholar practitioner. So it's really, truly a leadership journey for me since I've gotten into this track. And, by education, I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, right? So a lot about evidence-based management practices. And then, of course, I went for my doctoral dissertation in organization management. So bringing effectiveness to organizations, teams, and really being a significant contributor in my own way, towards, as I said, my mission is a better future for all involved, right? So in my 28 years of journey that I'm sharing with you, I think what's important for where I am right now and operating from are the last 2 decades, which was really a shift for me to academic medical systems, the healthcare environment. And talking about missions, I was recently interviewed for another feature, and one of the things I shared was the purpose-driven organization, what we do here to save lives, right? And to impact people's lives significantly. I mean, the larger humanity, that purpose resonates with me, right? And so I feel like I'm here to stay in this industry. And, as you know, we've talked several times about my scholar practitioner approach. I do continue my learning journey through teaching in the business college at San Jose State, and I teach MBA programs and undergrad business programs. And so again, it's really coming down, bringing everything together. The mission continues to be inspiring positive change. I've been a transformational leader all along. That's what my book chapter is about. So it's about inspiring positive change, influencing and motivating people towards a future that's unseen. It's quite exciting and fascinating to be on that journey.
So you do many things and you're very talented at your work. I'm just curious, how did you narrow down your topic for the book? Like, what was your vision for that?
So, Adam, it was honestly, it's continuation of the journey I'm on, right? I really did not have to think about narrowing down the topic. I just knew if you're going to ask me to write for your book, right, for where I am right now, it might change in the future, but for the work I'm doing right now, that is my topic. The Mission Matters, the Vol.7 for Tips for Success, where I'm contributing author, my particular, topic is on leading transformational change. And how do you find success? How do you get to a place, right, where you're successful? It's the work that I do. It's something that I talk to my students about. It's something that I teach as an adjunct professor. And it's something I'm continually learning from other transformational leaders in the industry. So it was really a no-brainer if you ask right? At least at this time. And as I continue, on my authorship journey, I may have more things to talk about in the future.
Well, this was a lot here. So maybe if you can share a little bit about the book, maybe read us a little bit from
Yeah,
it.
let me see. I do have my opening excerpt here. So these are the opening lines for the chapter. But before I go to the opening lines, Adam, I do want to just pause for a moment and just thank Mission Matters for inviting me to be an author and giving me that opportunity. And then again, for me, being here. So the opening lines for my chapter basically say, I'm just going to read a short one. Leading through change is hard, and yet successfully turning the ship around grows a leader's horizons as they avoid the trap of listening to refute. Who said transformations were easy? But nothing worth attaining ever comes easy.
Yeah.
That's how it starts.
There's a lot in that sentence. In those sentences, it's not an easy thing, and it's not an easy journey. And as you mentioned, things can take time. So what are some of the things that you hope that your readers, and obviously there's a lot, right? And there's only so much we could fit in the context of an interview, but what are some of the things that you hope your readers that dive into your work take away?
So, we'll stay to the book for now, Adam. There's a lot of work besides the book that we're talking about, but I think, it will be important that we talk a little more than the opening lines of the book. Of course, there are many other contributing authors, but the area of focus that I've talked about, what I've done basically is taken my over 2 decades of experience as a transformational change agent, in organizations where I've walked in. And transformation is a big word because transformation implies overhaul, right? And overhaul is scary, right? Especially in organizations where there are processes, systems, honestly, even people with longevity deeply rooted, right? How the organization operates. So when you talk about being a transformational change agent and you talk about overhaul, you're really, putting yourself out there, sometimes taking big risks and, have to be ready for failure. And my 2 years plus worth of journey and experience, that's what's been laid out in the chapter. So what I ended up doing for talking about transformational change through experience is I took all of my experiences and I kind of categorize them in what are the 4 big, areas where I can share with you what I've learned through being a transformational leader. And it starts with talking about the alignment journey. That's where, my chapter starts. And the alignment journey, I chose the alignment journey to be the first one is because one of the things why change is hard for people and why, there are barriers to change is because it's just going to shake you up, right? There's alignment everywhere. I mean, it may not be truly an alignment, but those who are there for a long time working in that the environment feel it's aligned, right? Yeah. So it's probably a blind spot many a times that you don't see beyond that because it becomes a comfort zone for you to operate in that manner, right? Yeah. So the alignment journey, that particular segment talks about how, when you walk in as a transformational leader, you're uprooting long-held structures and processes and approaches, and initially when you start talking about that and challenging the status quo, it's going to start creating visible disconnects to people who've been there functioning in those environments and feeling comfortable. So you create visible disconnects with the macro environment that exists there, right? I'm a systems thinker. We talked about my system thinking last time when we met, right? So as a transformational change agent, again, one of my learnings has been, and again, it's been a hard learning, is you really need to understand the macro environment because the disconnects that are now you're creating, which is giving people an assessment of, we are not aligned anymore, right? Those disconnects are typically with the subsystems, right? That have somehow tied themselves to the macro system. So you start shaking it up and people start feeling uncomfortable. And then, in the journey through alignment, one of the things I talk about is that the leader who's walking in, the transformational leader walks in with the vision. Of course, transformational leaders are meant to have a vision, right? And if they've been there, done that several times, again, they'll go assess and they're going to say, okay, this is where we need to go. And they have their own utopia of where they want to go, but it's not actually shared by anybody other than in your own mind, right? Where you want to go. So, that alignment journey is really where you have to align also your vision with the multiple stakeholders. And you have to make a business case every time you're going in as a transformational change agent, right? Even if they've heard it, even if they know it, I'll tell you, Adam, my experience has been, even when you're hired as a transformational leader, You step in thinking, okay, everybody's on board. That's not the reality.
But and it's hard too, right? Because change is not easy. A lot of business
No.
owners and executives that watch this and what a lot of the concepts you're talking about of legacy, right? Like change isn't easy.
Legacy. There's the word. And the other thing I talk about when I talk about alignment is the stability of change as sponsorship. I can't tell you how significant that is to any transformational change. And it goes beyond the transformational leader or the transformational change agent, unless you are the transformational leader at the top of the organization, right? But if you've been brought in at a different level than being that top person and you lose that sponsorship, right? It's very, very hard, So, I mean, again, going back to what are some of the things that are needed. Then the second tenet, I call them the 4 tenets in my chapter. The second tenet that I talk about is, there are 3 parts to it: customization, flexibility, and failure. Okay, that's what I talk about. And the reason, I pondered on it a lot because in my conversations as a transformational change leader, people just think, transformations is about a certain skill set you've developed and you're going to go in every organization and just do it because you've been there, done that. And one of the things that I keep emphasizing, and I've learned through experiences, it's not been there, done that. If you take recipes that have worked in other organizations, you're trying to implement it, God be with you. And
we wish it was that easy, right? If there was just this formula or this, you just go and do this and it's going to work and you can do it over and over again. But everyone's a different, living, breathing organism, right?
That's exactly the point, right? Every environment is different. The culture is different. The politics is different, right? Yeah. Talk about culture change. Don't forget about power in politics, right? There's an article I just recently wrote for Forbes. So there's really no been there, done that for a transformational leader. What you carry with you when you go to a new organization as a transformational leader is the core skill set. And that core skill set needs to understand customization. That core skill set needs to understand that flexibility is so much needed, even to get to your vision, right? It's okay. Don't lose sight of your vision, but be ready to change tracks, be ready to change paths, right? Don't go in with this is how I did this in the previous organization, so we're going to go down that path again, because your systems, processes, people, right? Everything is different, and you got to kind of really start again. You have to start afresh. And I talk about failure, because honestly, Adam, I am on your show the second time and have been able to co-author a chapter because I failed initially in my journey, which kept growing me stronger and stronger with wisdom. It's really, pretty interesting because I've lived through it as a transformational thinker, right? When you have that vision and you know how to change things, you know where you want to go. But why do you fail? You fail because you're still on the learning track of understanding the politics, the navigation, the skill set, the crucial conversation, how to go about it. And that comes with experience. Right? If you're very young, fresh graduate out of college, I teach MBA students and I really tell them, don't think you have an MBA from a very great university and you're just going to go in and everybody's going to buy into what your vision is, right?
Lesson number 1.
Yeah. You certainly have to work hard and you're going to have a lot of great ideas. But where you fail is when you fail to understand the people you have to bring along with you. When you fail to understand the power, the forces that are at play in that environment where you are very new and you did not take the time to understand the forces at play, right? So you really have to pause and do your own assessment and understand what are you changing and what will the barriers, and more important than anything else, who do you have to get on board? And that comes through failing. That comes through, heartburn. It's like, no, I thought I did everything right. What went wrong, right? Grow. And then you're smarter, right? You keep doing it and you don't run away and you're smarter and you have a stronger toolkit with you. So that was my second tenet. And then, Adam, this is not going to come as a surprise to you because we talked so much about emotional intelligence last time.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I am pretty much known with whoever I talk to that, no conversation is complete without Ekta bringing up emotional intelligence. So my book chapter couldn't be complete without me having that as a tenet. And, I've called my third tenet as emotional intelligence, the irreplaceable ingredient for success. Right. And, I keep emphasizing it again and again. And this goes beyond a transformational leader, but it is so crucial for a transformational leader that nothing so conclusively proves your ability to lead others as what you do to lead yourself day to day. And for transformational leadership, when I go back to my doctoral dissertation, which we talked about last time, right, on your show, there's an evidence-based empirical association that's been drawn between the 4 I's of transformational leadership. Right? So transformational leadership empirically has been established as having 4 I's, and I hope I remember them. It's idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individual consideration. And the 3 of these that actually empirically correlate with emotional intelligence are idealized influence, inspirational motivation, and individual consideration. The one that doesn't correlate is intellectual stimulation. So it just says it out so clearly. It's really not your brain power as a transformational leader that will make you successful. Don't count on your brain. It doesn't matter how much brain power you have. What matters is the interpersonal skill set. What matters is your influence. What matters is how are you going to be able to inspire and motivate people? Because the matter of the fact is you can have a vision of your own. If you can bring along people, especially those who have key stakes in that change, which is going to change their world, you can keep all the brain power with yourself and be happy and proud of it, right? Yeah. It's not going to take you anywhere. So I've really talked about the 4 I's and how, it ties back to emotional intelligence and how it's, evidence-based. It's proven through research. It's not active. It's not my research. It's research. It's something that I took and I validated in my doctoral dissertation, was validated. And again, in that tenet, I talk about culture because culture is intangible. Culture is invisible, but culture is a force to reckon with. Culture is the force that's going to make or break your transformational efforts. It will make or break your transformational efforts, right? And that's where your emotional intelligence about how do you go about that change and understanding what is it in the culture you need to change, because you can't bring a transformational change honestly without changing the culture. I'll be very honest. Now, yes, there are some core pieces of the culture you want to retain and preserve. That's the identity of the organization, right? That you live and breathe. And there's nothing wrong in it. There are still many that you can change. And, otherwise, we all use the statement quite often, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you make your transformational change journey just strategy and no culture, it's not going to happen.
I mean, you can see the disconnect. Like it's just not possible.
Well, it's because culture is basically how people feel, think, act. It's the shared beliefs, it's the shared assumptions, and it's very difficult to move. So there are multiple ways for transformational change agents to go ahead and do it. But again, it takes more than that leader. It takes many together, which brings me to the 4th tenet I've talked about is don't try to do it alone. Don't try to wear that badge of honor. Oh, I did it. No, you did not. Even in the previous successes you've had, no, you did not do it alone. So co-lead and co-create and be a systems thinker and a systems player. So that's my 4th tenet that I talk about. And again, if you recall, Adam, when last time we talked, I talked about ecosystem, going from ecosystem to ecosystem. And it is so, so, so crucial for transformational leaders, right? To wear their systems thinking hat and be that systems player and understand it's a journey where you have co-leading and co-creating. Even if the vision is yours, you have to sell it and have people buy into that vision. And the matter of the fact, Adam, is if you fail to have people buy into that, or if there are reasons beyond your efforts of why people don't buy into that, then, stop and pause and think whether honestly that's a transformational change you want to lead.
Yeah, it's great. I'm a big fan of your writing. I have a couple questions I want to go deeper into, but first, I want you to also just kind of stick with this idea of culture just a little bit longer, because I think a lot of leaders that are watching this and that will watch this in the future, they may be thinking, transformation, they understand it on some level. If your organization currently maybe has a culture that's really resistant to change in general, that's kind of almost part of the culture. And that's what I've always found tricky when I enter a new organization. Like, what are your thoughts just a little bit deeper on the culture side of things if you have a really resistant organization where the culture's kind of stagnant?
Well, so it can go in 2 directions, Adam, honestly. I mean, the way you've posed the question, if it's really stagnant, you really have to look at who brought you in for making the change. At what level of the organization you've been brought in to make a change. So in my 2 decades plus journey, I've stepped into transformational leadership role at a level which was really in the leadership ranks, management ranks, really not too high. Let me put it that way. And I had a change sponsor. And I'll tell you, when that sponsorship moves, you're done.
Yeah. I could see that. It's like, okay.
And then you're the one making a business.
All of that work.
Yeah, who comes in and you're, oh, guess this is what we were doing. This is the journey. And that leader have their own mission, right? Or their own vision. And, you could step in a place and space where your vision becomes the vision for the organization. So it really depends. And depending on where you've stepped in, you either have the power or can create and generate the force to change the culture, right? Mm-hmm. So if you've stepped in as a leader who luckily has the power and can generate that force to change the culture, then start changing the culture. And start changing the culture actually is a two-way effort where you have to start with leadership, right? And then you have to start bringing workforce and leaders together to think about a common future and a future that has something in it for everybody. Because why do we undertake transformation? We undertake transformation to get better. Right? Yeah. I mean, what's the single purpose of transformation? Why would you want to transform, right? And to keep up with where the world is going. We work in modern, complex, chaotic organizations, right? And it's like the pace of change is very quick and you don't want to be outdated, right? And part of it is when you have old mental models, things that worked for you 10 years back may not be good for you now from an organizational perspective, right? You certainly can build on certain things that have helped you, but you have to be very picky on those cultural elements that you would pick on. So it's interesting you asked me that question, deep-rooted cultural thing, how do you change the resistance, right? In my book, when I talk a little bit about the culture part, and I'd say culture is a force, understand the culture before you talk about change, right? One of the examples I share is, I was interviewing some leaders in an organization where I worked, and it was during pandemic, during COVID, right? Because I was doing a lot of keynote culture. And I said, so what elements of your culture actually helped or didn't help you during the pandemic? The leader confidently said, we had collaboration as a key component of our culture. And that cultural component of collaboration did wonders when the pandemic hit because we were all able to come together. Now, that's an ecosystem, right? That's an ecosystem mentality. Yeah. Think about organization where collaboration doesn't happen. And then something like this comes your way and you're all in your own place and space trying to find solutions, right?
Yeah.
Another answer I got from a cultural component is, so answer to your question, tying back, if you have those kinds of elements, innovation is another thing. I mean, that's why a lot of top leaders purposefully build innovation as a value, because you got to start thinking that way so that you're nimble, you are agile. So change will not be hard because change is the only constant. I say that, and it's not my statement. I think it's said everywhere. Change is the only constant. And if you accept that change is the only constant, then start building values in your culture that will create readiness in your workforce and your leaders for change in an ongoing basis. And then change will not be hard. But I'll definitely, and emphatically say, based on my experience, is there's culture and then there's specific leadership worldviews. And there are sometimes you have leaders who, regardless of what the overall culture is, are very, very rigid in giving up their old mental models. Right? Now, that's a leadership problem. Okay. I mean, I call that a leadership problem. And part of my cultural interventions also include leadership development, because you need to bring those leaders along with you and help them think in a different way and shed their old mental models. And again, go back to, be more emotionally intelligent. It's about letting go. It's about letting go, embracing what will take you forward. Right. And that all ties back to the culture. So it's really not something that you can quantify, or culture is one of the most hard things to measure in organizations, right? It can be felt. But if you're a transformational leader, coming back to our transformational journey, if you're a transformational leader, and if you've done that, you will understand. And honestly, you will be able to observe the elements in culture. You'll be able to gauge it, feel it when you talk to people. You'll be able to sense, okay, where am I going to get the resistance? So who do I need to get on board, right? And that's how you go about it. And again, it comes through failures, it comes through experiences until you really get to success.
So I want to jump around here a little bit, and I know we can talk about the book all day long, by the way, in your writing, but I do want to also cover, you had an organization change. But before we get into all this, I maybe have you read a little bit more, maybe another excerpt from the book.
How about the concluding thoughts?
Let's do it. Come on.
Because I started with the opening, right?
I like this because it's a nice hook, because we want everybody that's watching to go out and buy a book. So there you go. So I like this hook. Keep wanting more, Ekta.
Okay, I have the concluding thoughts here. So it says, transformations are undertaken to bring renewal in the way we work. They are undertaken to enhance the quality of our output by maximizing value-driven work. Transformations are rough, challenging, painful, and emotionally draining. At the same time, they have the potential to bring out the best in us, in our environment, and in our managerial approaches. Transformations are powerful. Perhaps that's why every time I have led a transformation, it has transformed me. Are you ready to be transformed?
It's powerful. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of individuals are going to get, as I have, get a lot of value out of your writing and out of your work and continued, which I wish you much more continued success with that. And speaking of that, the last time we interviewed, I mean, there's been a little bit of an organization change. I mean, we're catching up now. Can you tell me a little bit more?
Yes, well, you have my organization there, right? Is it there?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's little teeny tiny.
But I need the story. Come on. I need the story. I can read. I need the story. Yeah, give me the story.
Yes, I'll give you the story. Thanks for asking me. You know me well enough now. My identity is so mingled and, close to the organizations that I serve. So yes, you're right. Last time when we met and you interviewed me, I was with UC Davis Health as their Deputy Chief HR Officer. I have just 6 weeks back, I think 7th week running, I've joined Keck Medicine of USC, University of Southern California. Very proud and very thankful, actually, for my continued professional journey in premier academic medical institutions. And I've joined as the Health System Chief Human Resources Officer. Very, very thankful for this wonderful opportunity. And a little more about Keck Medicine. We are one of the only 2 university-based medical systems in Los Angeles area. You probably know that, don't you belong to?
I'm downtown LA. That's where I live. So yeah, I'm there.
Right. I mean, Keck Medicine obviously doesn't need an introduction. I mean, we're best in class physicians, access to cutting edge research and state of the art facilities and anything and everything you call it. As a health system, certainly academic medical is our strength, but, we are the top 50 in the nation, top 10 in California. That's our standing. And I've joined the organization at a very, very crucial time, and it's a very interesting time. And honestly, again, fills me with gratitude. As a health system, we now have 4 hospitals and over 80 outpatient network of care. So we have the Keck Medical Center and Norris Cancer Center, and then we have Vertigo Hills, which is a community hospital that has been part of our system for 9 years now. And then July 1st, actually, we have Methodist that became USC Arcadia has been part of us. So my stepping into this role is a wonderful opportunity again for me, kind of using my skill set, both as, the transformational leader we have talked about and, my teaching MBA courses where I talk about mergers and acquisitions and joint ventures, teaching my MBA students to bring all of that scholar practitioner work, to life. And right now, my biggest priority is the integration of USC, of Arcadia into Keck Medicine. And, the integration is really across the continuum of all people strategies. And of course, as we talked about cultural integration is the most significant part besides your total rewards and your, seamless employee experience and employer branding. So there's a lot of work, that is in place. It's a wonderful organization with wonderful people. And I've just had the happiest, I would say, 6 weeks. Professional journey. I just love being here.
We can keep this high level, but because obviously I don't want to oversimplify it, and I know there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm just trying to fathom, what does it even look like to integrate something like that? Like, so your number one priority, like I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, that's number one, obviously a lot of work, bringing cultures together and integration, but like, where does that even start?
It started before I joined.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a lot of work you have to do in understanding what those different entities stand for and how do they work. Now, of course, there is a common goal in serving the patients that we serve, right? So when a community hospital becomes part of an academic medical system, you want to have a win-win situation. You are now part of a larger system where you have access to world-class research. Right. And you can redirect patients or you can tap into physician expertise or research expertise, right, where science is so advanced, So again, you're going to try to find the win-win, but at the same time, right, what is the standalone key characteristics that the academic medical is getting from being affiliated or, involved, including that community hospital, in your sphere. Now, in my role, particularly, I'm the people strategy person, right? And that's why I said it started before I joined, because, of course, it doesn't happen overnight. So you have to start thinking about how you're going to bring two organizations together under a single identity. So of course, there's work in technology, there's work in, from a financial perspective, there's a lot of work. But if I talk about integration from my perspective, the way I look at it, Adam, and I talk philosophically, you know that, right?
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, it's really not whether you've signed a piece of paper saying you become us going forward. It's are you creating that experience for the leaders, employees, that they do feel the belongingness, right? Do they feel they belong? Are they Keck Medicine now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from a people strategy perspective, you do that across the continuum of employee life cycle. So you do that from the perspective of the employee value propositions you're extending to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on that. We have to get there. That entails your value proposition, entails your employer brand identity. They started associating with you as a brand, not just that they're wearing your badge, but are you actually connecting with them? Are you creating that connectedness, which goes back to the cultural part of it? Do they see the mission of Keck Medicine, the vision of our CEO of the health system, the values that Keck Medicine has and, espoused? Do they embrace those, And that's basically what true integration means to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's going to be the work we are doing from an HR perspective. I have like subcommittees and committees and steering committees, right, on total reward strategy and how do we bring parity in the wages for community hospitals and academic medical, and how do we look at benefits and try to really, really create that systemness. How are we attracting candidates, right? Mm-hmm. So all those things said, in the end, what matters from an integration perspective, do they wake up this morning and they say, yes, I belong and I connect and this is my organization? Right. And it's a seamless identity. It's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. So we're going to do the processes, the structures, the system. That integration, I think, is easier. It's when the heart-to-heart connection has to happen, right? Belongingness has to happen. And that's the cultural component of it.
Between, teaching, between what you're doing here in integration, like when do you sleep, Ekta? Come on. You got a lot on your plate. And then also speaking. So I know you do quite a bit of speaking as well. So how do you do it?
Honestly, that's the most difficult question you've asked me. I don't know how I do it. I think over the course of years, it was hard initially when I started wearing multiple hats to find that balance. But I think when it becomes the second nature, you just get on an autopilot of doing all of these, right? So I've had like I think since the beginning of this year, I've had 6 or 7 conferences where I've been a speaker traveling, right? 2 times, 3 times to Chicago itself. And then, of course, this was a wonderful opportunity, the book co-authorship. There's another book. It's a book written by Paul Wolf. And they asked me to do a sidebar, right? Because the book is titled Human Beings First, coming out of the pandemic. It's Human Beings First. And they wanted me to do a sidebar. And the sidebar I did was it's about 11 pages. And I'm like, be better, not bitter. So those are the themes. But again, I'm able to, I think I've learned it along the way, Adam, on how to. Of course, you always have to put my Forbes article that just got published was in the works for 3 months. So that tells you how I do it, right? It's like, don't kill yourself. I wanted it to be published 3 months back. And it did not. So if it did not, it did not, right? Look at your priorities. So when the semester is in session, like I'm getting back into teaching my MBA courses in a couple of weeks, I'll have to compromise a lot of speaking and stop traveling for speaking sessions. So I think, once you've done it for a couple of years, you just know when to let go and say no to speaking engagements because you have commitment to your students during that time. And of course, my primary job right now is at Keck Medicine always comes first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just have to ask, what's next? What's next for you? What's next on the calendar?
Okay. Well, you already heard about my sidebar to Paul Wolf's.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Of course, I have a conference coming up, I think 2 weeks, I'm in Charleston. And then honestly, my highlight of this year, I'm not undermining our book, Adam, but my highlight.
Wait, other than coming on the show, other than that was assume, Ekta. Come on, other than that.
Right. So my highlight of the year is Dr. Dave Ulrich, the father of modern HR, the top 10 thinkers in the world globally. I have a special invitation from him to join his CHRO summit in Utah, which he's holding at his residence. And I literally got a special invite. And, I have classes to teach those days. And I said, no matter what, I'm going. When Dr. Dave Ulrich invites you, you go.
Yeah.
I feel blessed. So honestly, looking back in 2022, that, being in the same place and space with Dr. Dave Ulrich will be, I feel blessed for that. And of course, then comes our Mission Matters at the second rank order, right? And of course, the many speaking engagements and my Forbes articles. And of course, there's another significant publication with American College of Healthcare Executives. It's a very prestigious organization, ACHE. I was able to present there earlier this year in Chicago. They actually reached out and asked me and my co-presenter there, Adam Higman. He's also Adam. I guess I'm supposed to be working with that.
That's what I see.
Name, huh? So we've actually now an article coming up in a very prestigious journal that it's called Management in Healthcare. It's an ACA publication, and I think it's going to get published in September. Yeah, work in progress.
So Ekta, if somebody wants to follow up and connect with your work and follow your journey, what's the best way for people to do that?
Follow me on LinkedIn and send me an invite. I hardly turn down an invite. I'll certainly look at your profile, but I am very accepting of those who want to connect with me. Yeah. I have my personal website launched now, Adam. Last time you'd asked me and I told you it's going to be there.
Congrats. I'm happy you have so much going on. We need a place to see it at one place. So congrats on the website. What's the website address?
Yeah. I am a simple, transparent person. It's ektavyasphd.com.
Nice.
So it's simple to remember. I had too much pressure to have my own website. I think it's because of the speaking engagements that, the question that I was asked was, can you send us your website URL? And I had none. So that was launched. So I'm not on any, if you remember, I told you I was social media shy last time. Yeah. So I'm not on Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram.
Well, you're going on TikTok today, just so you know. Tomorrow you'll be on my daily vlog on TikTok. So don't worry about that. So I'll do my part to get you out on social media.
Well, yes. I am there. I know that. But from knowing.
I do know. Well, Ekta, I'll just say, it's been awesome having you back on the show and reconnecting. And I'm thrilled to be publishing this book with you and also collaborating and getting your word out there about transformational leadership, what that means, how organizations can implement it, and really just amplifying your message to make sure it reaches a broad audience, which I'm always happy to do. Speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging with our platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, how they do what they do, what they're doing, and also what we can all learn and gain from it so that we can all grow together, right? That's the whole reason here. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or engaging to you, hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line and we don't want you to miss a thing. Ekta, really, it has been a pleasure. Can't wait till the next time we get to work together.
Thanks for having me with you again, Adam. Truly grateful.